Yes, let's switch to English and welcome everyone to the first edition of Journey Management Mastery. And of course, we need a. What else do we need? Jochem, good to see you.
Good to see you, Mark. Nice to be here.
Exciting to do this. It's been ages for me doing a live stream, so it's always fun, always to explore something new. As with all these live streams, I think it's nice to know who's joining, who's watching. So if you're in the live stream, watching and listening to Jochem and myself right now, say hello. I see Christina and Lena. Yeah, cool. Hello from Seattle, from Craig. Awesome that you're joining in. And we'll try to make this as entertaining, as fun as possible. No guarantees here. Hello from Seattle. We can even put you on screen, Greg. Let's see if we can make this white. Yeah, there we go. So today, 1 hour of journey management. We're going to dive into the recent Journey Management Index. We're going to talk about maturity models. We're going to dive into some of your questions. We're going to dive into some of the roadblocks. We're going to dive into some magic ones. So busy schedule, a lot of fun and exciting things. Jochem, what are you looking most forward to?
Well, this is the first time YouTube live. I mean, I've been on the sending end of a lot of webinars, interviews that we've been doing. So it's a real pleasure to be a guest again in your show and just improvise a bit. Normally it's very scripted. I mean, we've prepared some stuff and brought some things to the table today. But an hour of improv, having the sunshine on my face is a very nice thing for this afternoon. So I'm in Amsterdam, so it's afternoon here. So I'm really looking forward to this one. And let's get the show on the road.
Yeah, we are kicking off. Again, super cool to see everybody joining in from Germany, from Southwest England, Bristol. Hi, Neil. Maybe it's nice to give a proper introduction because I'm always assuming that people sort of are familiar with the Service Design Show, with your face, my face, but maybe they're not. So in that case, it's always nice to say hi. Jochem, I see a nice TheyDo logo on your shirt. So what's that all about and who are you?
You have to have a little swag, right? So I am the co-founder and CEO at TheyDo. And we're building this, or taking a stab at solving one of the biggest problems in most complex organizations, which is like the idea of organizing or reorganizing around journeys. And we've been at it for 2 years now, and our platform is accelerating a lot of teams, a lot of service designers, but also the adjacent roles of design, product management around them to start to redesign the company around their customer journeys. And that is my job, to make sure that everyone can be jumping off that cliff and making sure that everything is also designed really nicely. My background is in UX design. So that is where I am coming from today.
Awesome. And in the meantime, I'm watching the chat and trying to juggle some camera angles. We're going to make this fun and interactive. Yeah, cool. And we have to, I don't know if it's a disclaimer, but we have to be, I think it's good to tell that you're a partner of the Service Design Show. We had lunch, I think last year, I don't know, October, somewhere in my hometown, Utrecht. And basically from that very first lunch encounter, we decided to partner and see what we could do to promote journey management, get journey management on the map, and do some exciting things and see how we can help the community. So you are a partner of the Service Design Show. That is not the only reason why you're here, because I do think that this topic is super interesting and helpful, and we also see that a lot of people are asking for it. So I think this will be a good continuation of what we already started at the start of the year. By the way, if you're not familiar with my face, I'm Mark. I'm the host of the Service Design Show. the founder of Service Design Jobs, the dad of 2 kids, living in Utrecht, very close by to Jochem. And excited for this session of Journey Management Mastery. Somebody already asked a question, Jochem, and maybe that's very good to kick off with, is Journey Management. What the hell? What is Journey Management?
That's a good one. So the way I see it, and not everyone agrees, right? The way I see it is the simple explanation I just give. It's really understanding how to reorganize your teams, your people, your processes, and your priorities around or in line with your customer journeys. And that is basically the practice of journey management. And you can do this on a team level, on a project level, or on a company-wide level, which is, I think, the point where we want to go, or at least most of us want to go, that our whole company can organize around journeys, find their ways, priorities, and align and actually make decisions across teams around their customer journeys. Because I think the surface level of decision making is broken in most organizations. It's either too product focused or too management focused, where the people with the longest track record or the loudest voice get to prioritize, or it's really about the revenue or KPI metrics, which also show a very static or narrow version of what the company actually is doing. But the journey, the customer journey, is a perfect playing field or level playing field for all teams in the change organization to align against. So journey management, in short, is the practice of planning, researching, designing, measuring, optimizing, and organizing around customer journeys.
And if you want to know more, there's a whole episode we recently did on journey management. I think it was episode 167, and the following episode 168 with Florian Volmer also talks a lot about journey management. So 2 hours of additional content that you can consume on that topic. Let's dive into the meat of our topic today. We talked a little bit about the Journey Management Index, and I think Jochem, you have some slides to help us guide through this session a little bit. Let me share your screen. Let's see. There we go.
Nice. Sharing my screen. Oh, that's good.
We're sharing your screen. Yeah, I'm sharing your screen. So I think this is the agenda for today, right?
Yeah, but let's take everyone back to that discussion we had in Utrecht when we first met. It was like, sure, okay, you're the service design show. You're really facilitating change for service design as a community. And what we saw is that, by definition, who works with journeys, it's service designers. So that is where like the mutual understanding of what the field is today and where we want to take it came from. But we also said like, okay, we're focused on journey management. Service design is the practice, or at least the discipline, of most people, I think, that are joining today. But now that we have a seat at the table, in most organizations, service design is recognized, and people are slowly but surely adopting the practices like journeys, blueprints, but also like customer-centric decision-making. We still haven't scaled properly, like maybe UX or product management have the last, let's say, 10 to 15 years. So our missions are really aligned in making that possible. We come from a technology angle. You come from more of a community, let's do it together angle. And then we came to the idea of saying like, where are people in their organization? Like, sure, the service designers, they know how to organize around journeys. It's a no-brainer to do this, but to get the rest of the organization to actually practice a proper version of it, we got some work to do. And some organizations are further in their journey to mastery than others. So let's index. Let's start with figuring out where people are, what are the roadblocks, and where do we need to go from here. So what we're doing is we're building this index, and we're building it with you guys joining in. I mean, many of you have filled in our little like survey, which is a very basic understanding of like, where are you and where's your organization? And we're going to recap that a little bit today. And we also identified 6 dimensions of maturity within like the 5 levels of getting there. And I'll introduce them in a second. But today we're going to zoom in on one, because like touching base on all these levels and all these dimensions. That's going to be messy. So we said, let's touch base on one. Let's see how it goes. Take your cues from everyone tuning in on YouTube, like to go left or right today, but we will give a little guidance around that. So let me start with sharing some results back. Is that okay with you, Mark? That what we've seen so far?
Yeah, sure. I'm eager to jump in, but I would like to see some hands in the chat if people have already participated in the Journey Management Index. It's still open. The goal is to keep it open probably for the rest of the year. It's an ongoing thing. It's not done. In the meantime, while you jump into some of the first results, I will make sure to share the link in the chat. So, yeah, take it away.
That's good. Just a recap, like this is based on our research. This is based on what our customers do. And we've seen actually 5 levels of maturity that any organization or team goes through when making this way of working around journeys possible. And, everything starts with like, hey, we do stuff on gut feel in intuition land, like level 1. But then in different parts of the organization, journeys start to become the place to align on projects, maybe some teams. But once there is some understanding of, hey, this journey thing is working, we might use your journeys and we start to align across teams. That is where a lot of coordination is needed to make sure, especially in large organizations, but even at TheyDo, I mean, we're small still, but even at our company, to coordinate across journeys, you need a bunch of good processes, rituals, tools in place to make this happen. We're going to touch base on that. And if you have that, you can scale this up, ultimately reaching excellence or mastery, the way we dubbed it, right? So we want to go from like small top of the pyramid and where everyone is like lower in the pyramid to change the world and say, hey, everyone is journey led, just as product management is so ubiquitous in enterprise or in companies today. I think journey management should be, and we're paving the way to get there. So that's basically what we're trying to do also with the index and seeing where you are and where can you go. So
are these Jochem, are these models available somewhere, or do people need to take a screenshot? Like, how accessible are these resources?
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe we can just share the link of this thing today, which is a Google Slides document. We can share it out, and we will do a few more of these live sessions anyway. So we'll build this out, and that is the whole idea. This index is based on maturity levels, and it is based on the 6 dimensions that make up for all the different facets of journey management maturity. But this is something that we're building out and seeing how people are adapting this, how we can provide better guidance on getting to a higher level of maturity. So it's a work in progress. So I would say let's share this out after today, so people can join. And also maybe jumping ahead in time, like doing the index yourself, seeing where you are or your organization stands is a fun way to do that as well. So journey management index. Mark, will you provide the link for us?
Yeah, the link is already in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, it's in the chat. So you can fill it out. The idea also is to build a more sophisticated survey over time, but we just start with gauging like, where are you right now? What are the roadblocks? And if you could change everything, what would you do? That is where we are coming from. So with that in mind, we build out these sessions. So just to give you an idea, we're heat mapping the results, seeing where people are in terms of where they struggle, how mature they are across the different levels, and then averaging this out. This is just a little screen share of the results of dozens. I think we're crossing 100 mark now with people filling this in, so it's really cool to see.
Yeah, we just crossed 100, so that's nice. We have some initial results.
Yeah, so and again, like nobody's on level 5, right, across the board. The highest score is a 3.8. I will not name names. I don't know if I can publish names. We should fact check that. But like it's an automotive company.
We do ask if we can use some case studies, but let's double check that before publishing anything.
Right. So the highest score right now is 3.8. Anyone going past that today? Let's see. And the lowest is 1.2. There's obviously what some people have filled in like 1 across the board just to see what the survey did. But like I think the first real results is a 1.2. It's a U.S. government part tech organization that is not so mature. 2,000 people work there compared to the 10K automotive international company. And that is, again, across the 6 different dimensions we identified. Maybe we should go through them one by one, and then also introduce why we picked process today. So from left to right, you see like the levels. And then from top to bottom is the 6 dimensions that we've identified are necessary, or ways to look at your organization, how mature you are and where you need to take action or how you can do that. The first one is governance. Mark and I were chatting. It's like, are we really going to start with that heavy one?
The most interesting and the most appealing one to everybody. No, we kept governance for a second or a third episode. I think it's also good to mention, you mentioned that we'll be doing more of these journey management mastery sessions. The idea is to, in future sessions, dive deep into the other dimensions, and today focus on process, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah, I think that's right. So in no particular order, we're taking process today. If you want us to pick governance anyway next time, let us know. We'll do it someday for sure. But it's the most daunting one. Process is actually the simplest one, the easiest one, because you can actually fact check that in your organization. Where are you? What are we doing? Are we doing something? Not at all. And at what level are we? And again, process is the guiding principle or the guiding dimension for today, to see how people respond. Now we're just going to call out some of the results that we got in terms of roadblocks, and in terms of what would you like to change if you had a magic wand, around process. Like, what is blocking you, or what is currently happening in your organization that is preventing you from making progress, and how would you change that if you could? And obviously, there's probably some good ideas, or some people in the audience today that also have their struggles, or have their struggles overcome even. So I'm curious to know as we go how that goes. So that is actually what we wanted to do. I selected 5 roadblocks. I selected 5 magic wand answers, and we can talk about that. And I can also speak a little bit about my own experience with setting up a journey management process, but I'll go however you want to take it, Mark. You lead us the way.
Yeah, I think people will definitely be interested in your experience as well. I just put on the chat that if people have specific questions today, type it in the chat and start with a Q. That way it's easier for us to spot them. And Brianna had this question, and we'll dive into all of your questions, at least most of them, at the end of the regular session. We'll make sure to save enough time at the end to go over the questions. So I think Jochem is most interesting to talk about those roadblocks and those magic wand remarks, comments, to get a baseline, to get a sort of a sense and a pulse of the community. So yeah, let's just start with that.
Sure. And they're in no particular order, right? I picked the ones that directly relate to process, or the ones that are useful to bring up. So it's not like this is the top one or the bottom one. It's just the ones that are most useful to bring up. So just to give a little disclaimer on that. And basically, I'll just put a statement on this, and then we can discuss this. I'll share my thoughts, and then you probably see things that are familiar to your organization, and we'll take some questions as well. So the first roadblock is product managers and stakeholders this is literally copy paste, right? I didn't edit anything. So not allowing the time to create journeys, because let's face it, if you don't have journeys, you don't have recreation of your current customer reality. There's not much you can do. You can't use journeys to manage. You can't use journeys to influence change. And you really can't use anything at all around journeys. So having the time to create journeys is probably one of the essential things. And this, I don't know if this is coming from a service designer. I don't know. Yeah, can't see that. But I guess it is, because they work a lot with product, with business stakeholders to get that right. And to get a proper journey, even though it's a simple journey, but to do the research, to plot out the data, to understand the customer experience, what it is like to walk in your customer shoes, takes some time. Once it's there, you can start to use it and build it out, but it takes some time. And
How much time do we need, Jochem?
Oh, well, I know very, very well, actually. Did you see the recent Nielsen Norman article coming out on what it takes
I did.
to do journey mapping? I think
I
they
think
had
I
a
did. I
study on it.
did. Maybe somebody can share a link in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So I don't know the number from the top of my head, but it is hours. It is days. It is not like, oh, I'll just magically use Chat GPT to generate a journey and then poof, we're off to the races. That's not what we mean, right? You actually want to know what your customers are doing, what they're feeling, and how your data is measuring their behavior and their actions. And that takes some time to bring it all together. So product managers and stakeholders, this is a shout out to you. If you want to do good product management and really want to make that work, the way we do it at TheyDo as well, is then you need to put in the legwork to understand how people interact before and after any digital interaction with your features, right? You want to know where they're coming from, what their intentions are, why they don't do what you expect them to do when they click on something or don't click on something, right? It is some time to put in to create those journeys. So I think that is a roadblock. And this is a call out to all the PMs listening and the business stakeholders. Allow your team some time, because once you have recreated reality, once those journeys are there, and you need a bunch of them to understand the full picture of your customer experience, I think you're ready to start aligning across teams in a way better place than if you just say, we have a purchase journey, we have an onboarding journey, and here's the data, but you really don't understand what happens step by step in the minds of your customer. So let me pause there. Want to add some more reflection to it, Mark?
No, I think it's good to continue. I'm curious. One thing I'm curious about is, are there any product managers listening, watching right now? And do you dare to raise your hand in the chat? So we'll see that. But let's move on to the second one, because we have quite a few. I think I see the questions already coming in. Brianna, Christiana, Anna, Carolina, Saif. I see your questions. And I've started them, so we'll try to get to them a bit later. So let's just move on, Jochem, and make sure we have some time at the end for the Q&A.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll pick in the next one. So this is also a common one. So the complexity of the organization is preventing us from setting up a good process. In this example, 300,000 people, global enterprise with multiple lines of business, routes, go to market, and geographies to take into account. And this is a very important one, because I've seen service designers in particular look at like the entire organization holistically, the entire customer experience, and then try to break it down into journeys, into blueprints, which is a good thing to understand how everything is pieced together and wired together. But and I'm going to answer a little bit of the question that I saw in the corner of my eye: bottoms up or top down. The best teams start bottoms up, so they don't go into senior management and say like, no, we're going to ditch everything, we're going to be journey led, we're going to redesign the whole company around journeys. No, they start with a handful of journeys that they can influence directly, that they know where, for instance, the pain is. If you have a problem around churn, if you have a problem around customer acquisition, if you have a problem around retaining your customers or making them renew their subscription, whatever that is, what are the journeys surrounding that, and what are the journeys that you can actually, with the time you have available, understand, map, research, and plan around, that should cover at least one of the pressing organizational problems, is a way to do this bottom up. And I think I've seen 0 teams that approach this top down be successful fast. So, okay, you're waiting for that, right?
I was waiting for that. Yeah, for sure. But there is definitely some recognition of what you said in the chat. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, let me try to set you up for a better in the next ones, now that I know you have that tool. But this is essential. Start with a few journeys. and build out your journey management muscle from there, rather than to be complete and over precise in making sure that this global 300K employee company knows every in and out of all the journeys all together. And no, Florian, I think I saw you, like, you have hundreds of journeys at NCR to manage, but you also didn't start with those 100 at the same time. You've built this up meticulously. So I think doing it step by step, journey by journey, is a better way than rather say, like, now everything has to change and we're going to go into this 10-year digital transformation, which we call the journey transformation. I don't think that's the right way to do this. So it is a roadblock, but the way to go around that is to start small and build out the success cases one by one. Do you have some
Moving
kung
on.
fu sounds as well?
Well, if you want to.
Oh, nice. Okay, moving on. Yes. This one is important as well, and I think this counts for service design. So someone said there's a perception, especially at senior management, that good customer experience is a craft and not a process. So there is no guidance of what a good journey looks like. And this one is often overlooked. Like, it is about emotions, it is about customer experience, right? What people feel and think and do with your brand, and then have this experience. But it's also about being specific and consistent in the way you do things. And it can really help to have an example of what a good journey looks like. And just to give some guidance on this, as few steps possible. Like, a linear journey is an abstraction of reality. It is not reality, but it's getting close enough for people to relate to. But if your journey has like 60 steps, how do you expect non-service designers or the people who are not part of the creation process to be like engaged and think like, oh yeah, I can understand this. This is easy. So giving some guidance on what a typical good journey looks like, have a bunch of templates, rules, or simple set of principles how to set up a new journey. If you do that, can really help you to do this. I don't know if that will address that it is a craft notion of it, but it is a process of doing this in the right way. No sound?
And there are,
Mark? No.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, let's see. No, I'll skip the sound for this one. I'll surprise you. Yeah, we need a surprise effect, but it's definitely hard what good looks like, because you definitely have some best practices. I think it's safe to say that those have emerged, but it depends on your situation, right? And it's really tricky if you start copying a journey map or a journey template from somebody else. That might set you off on the wrong foot. So this is always the hard thing. There are best practices, but don't just blindly follow them.
Yeah. I like to think like in two ways. One is, can the customer complete this in one go, or almost in one go, like step by step by step? Or is your team able to influence this journey end to end? So identify the opportunities, work on solutions, implement them, and measure them autonomously. So without help of other people that are not part of it. And it can be a cross-functional team as well. So if you look at those two ways to define how big your journey can be, then you're in a good place. And then if you look at the content of your journey, I would say it should at least cover data. So what are we measuring to see if this journey is successful or completed, or how many people are doing that? That can be on a journey level, just a KPI. Then you have your insights. So step by step, what insights do we have? What pains, what needs, what jobs to be done, whatever it is you're using. And then you would have existing solutions. What are the processes, the features, the landing pages, the content that we have in place? And then you would have your opportunities, like where are we not performing? Where is frustration for the customer? Or what is going really well that we can amplify? So looking at from it like a journey lane perspective for the service designers out there, that's all you need. And then you can make it as complex and specific as you want. But if you do those two things, so figure out what is the size of your journey, depending on, can the customer complete it in one go? Or do we have a team that can manage this end to end? is the way you define from left to right how big it is, and then from top to bottom, data, insights, existing solutions, and opportunities for innovation. That's my 2 cents, at least. It sounds easy,
Got
but
it.
it's very hard to
Yeah,
implement.
makes sense. Makes sense. I think we have
Next
two
one.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, we have two more, 4 and 5. I love this one. It's we can be short about it, but like colleague, manager, ignorance, immaturity, laziness. Please get rid of all the idiots. Literally, that was a comment. It can be frustrating because when you see things that other people don't in your organization, but elsewhere people are more mature or doing this already or practicing journey management, it is frustrated, or it's getting frustrated for sure. Especially if you're a service designer, or there are a few service designers in your company, a few people that know how to work with journeys, and the rest is like, no, we're process centric, or we don't care about the journeys. It's all about the outcome. That can be very, very frustrated. But being mindful of the people in the organization, it is not their fault. It is usually the fault of the existing processes that are in place that will make sure that journey management cannot start off in a good place, because the processes are designed for people to make promotions, to track KPIs, and to surface their results in a way that doesn't work horizontally. And if that is the case, it is not really people's fault, but it's the process or the way your organization is structured that is preventing you from this. So this is a blessing to all the idiots out there that are doing their best within the system. But it is our job to slowly but surely change the system. I just wanted to call that out. I don't agree that there's idiots out there, although there are some idiots for sure. But like in general, it is the process or the way your organization is set up that is faulty, and not the people that work within it.
We are victims of the system that we've created.
Yeah, but we have the power to change it. So we should not be victimized, right? We should not be like,
Exactly.
start
Yes.
crying and everything. I think that's good. And I think this one is also very good. It's more like a positive way of doing it, but it is also a roadblock. You need a business case. You need a success story. You need like a case study that shows this is how we use the journey to impact this data, to impact that metric, to impact the customer experience. They love us now. We solved this problem. The business is happy. The customer is happy. Look at that. Oh, by the way, did you know that we identified this around our journeys? Did you know we cross-functionally aligned and agreed on what to do? Did you know that this impacted the bottom line or created more revenue for us? You need that victory case. So again, this is a testimony to start small, pick a journey or pick a bunch of journeys that you can influence a specific metric or KPI or objective for your company that is important right now to make that victory case. You can also work backwards a little bit from what you have achieved already, but I would recommend build it up step by step, take people along the process and show what you could do by having actually done something. And I think it's overlooked, can be simple, but a PowerPoint with your results go a long way.
What is keeping people from starting small? What is the roadblock to starting small?
If you start small, then you're starting to think, okay, what is that journey? And to understand that journey, you realize there's more to the journey. There's probably something happening before this even, or maybe after, or maybe there's a business process that is in place that you don't like, but you're really not sure how it works. So you need to uncover that. There's another journey. So you can go down this rabbit hole of uncovering, researching, and figuring things out, to be specific. And before you know it, you end up with 10, 20 journeys all over the place. You understand like there's branches, there's steps, there's like a lot of complexity coming. So without an end goal, say like, no, we want to have a simple device, which is a journey. So I can influence change, take people along my story and make sure that we impact the customer experience. You don't want to be overly detailed. So I think that is one of the things that can happen when starting small.
I think we sometimes, as service design professionals or whatever title you currently have, lack from suffer again from the problem that we see how things could be done. We are in a position where we have a holistic overview, and that can be quite limiting because we also see all the things that we're currently not doing. At least that's what I've found, and that's sometimes like disappointing that you're just starting in a small piece and that you know that if we're starting here small, then we'll later need to fix this because we need to address the root cause, and that's there. And then you sort of get into this catch-22 that you're not starting because you want to address the root cause. But so, yeah, I think our challenge is that we do have the holistic view, and that limits us because we know what could be done, and that prevents us sometimes from just starting small.
Yeah.
Do you recognize this, Jochem?
Yeah, totally. And we even made that mistake at TheyDo. Like we thought, oh yeah, of course, like we've been in service design for ages. So here's our life cycle, and here's all the journeys that are necessary to get like a good journey management setup. It's a little bit meta, obviously, in place. And then soon we realized we only need a handful of journeys that are important right now to surface the opportunities. And in our case, we have like this quarterly goal setting. We use OKRs. Might ditch that, but currently we use OKRs. And then the opportunities from these journeys that teams who are actually managing these journeys on a team level or a cross-functional team level can surface them against these company OKRs, or actually use the opportunities to define these OKRs, is a way for us to overcome that problem, that we're not like super complete in all the detailed journey steps, because there's many, like from mapping a journey, from aligning teams, from tracking progress, from making a persona. You can name all these different journeys that we have in TheyDo even. And we're a small organization, not like a multinational with 300,000 employees. Can you imagine what that looks like? But what we said is we need to identify the opportunities that make the impact on the customer experience as big as we can. And by doing it in that way, allowed our teams to be free of being complete and overly detailed in how they set up their journeys, but allowed them to identify, based on the insights they found, the opportunities that are relevant right now for the business to move forward. And I think that was one of the learnings that we had ourselves last year, and we're redesigning our internal processes around that. It's way more simple right now, and more effective for everyone to contribute.
Awesome. Let's see. Victory case. That was where we left off. So those were the top 5 roadblocks, or top 5 in... now I lost your screen, so let's go back over here for a second. How representative are those 5 roadblocks? Because you get a lot of data at TheyDo, you see a lot of challenges, you speak to a lot of people. Any surprises here, or is this really the common story?
It is exemplary for what I see, and I focus on process specifically, right? We go into the beautiful role of like governance and aligning the strategic decisions with the tactical ones in journeys, maybe in the next episode. But around setting up processes to do this, I think these are pretty exemplary for what is happening, for what I see, and especially for organizations that are in different levels of maturity in different parts of the organization. It's also important to know not every global operating country has like maturity across all the different countries, or even within same headquarters. There can be like pockets of understanding the customer versus like process-centric thinking in place. So I think these are exemplary, but maybe to align on the things that we'll show next, on the 5 like things that you could change, I think we'll see even more like, oh wow, yeah, that's true in my organization as well. I wish I could like change the future and have this in place, but that's a little spoiler.
Let's go over those 5, and then I'm curious to if we can do a voting round, like which of these 5 do people relate to the 5 magic wand questions. I saw somebody give a thumbs up on YouTube to this Journey Management Mastery session, because that's what we're doing. If you haven't done so already, I don't know if it helps, but and if you're enjoying this, click that like button. That's what all these YouTubers say. So yeah, please do so. Moving on, I'll try to reshare your screen again. There we have it. If you'd had a magic wand, what would you do? This was a question in the Journey Management Index survey that we still have. And the idea behind this is like the classic service design question, right? If you could change the future, what's the one thing that's on your mind? What's your biggest desire, your biggest wish at the moment? So I see the likes flying in. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for enjoying and liking this session. So what did we get as results from on this question, Jochem?
Yeah, so I'll start with the most obvious one, and this is probably something that is like, yes, of course. So I would define a more standard practice and terminology, plus a one source of truth to create and maintain the journeys. Now, I don't think anyone would disagree with this one, but I think terminology is the key word here. So what I have seen, and also the way we're building TheyDo, is that every organization has slight variations of the same thing. So, okay, customer journeys. I mean, if you take healthcare, we have a bunch of major healthcare global companies, like from hospitals to pharma. They don't talk about customers, obviously. They talk about patients. They talk about patient experience, patient journeys. So it's a small change, but when we did this RFP process for Johnson & Johnson, and everything was called customer journey in our standard materials. And they went like, if you want to surprise us, you should probably think about changing that. So that was a lesson learned. Obviously, Johnson & Johnson is doing fantastic now, but the way that the organizations today are talking about the same things in a different way is something you need to be mindful of. So another example would be, yeah, you wanted to say something more?
No, go ahead. No, continue.
And another example is like, if you take, let's say, the triple diamond process of innovation. So you go from problem discovery to solution discovery to solution delivery in these three triple diamonds, like converging, diverging workflows. Then what we have set out is said, okay, sure, you have journeys, you have insights, you have data. In typical service design or design thinking lingo, you would have the problem statement there. Now we say at TheyDo, that is called an opportunity. We have customers that say that is a problem area. We have customers that say that is, I forgot the name, it's Dutch, an infliction, anyway, something around.
What is infliction. It in Dutch?
So, yeah, I need to check. I don't know if Minu from KPN is here, but it was it had a very negative load. So they didn't call it like opportunities, which is positive, but very negative. Anyway, if you go through like this workflow and your organization has initiatives over projects or cycles over sprints, like you want to speak the same language. So getting that terminology to fit in your journey language, I think is a very easy way to fix process. So don't come with a whole new set of terms. And I know we can improve on that. Some things are fixed in TheyDo, but like we're learning as we go. But don't come with your new definitions. Just use what is out there and build from there so you can enhance rather than to like break things.
Yes. Let's see. Number 2, I'm going to try to speed you up a little bit.
Cool. So 2 is get business owners more engaged in a concise set of convergent journeys and the value in maintaining them. And this brings it back. I know it has the word governance in there kind of, but this brings it back to a few journeys. Don't think about life cycle management, end-to-end journeys all the way across the business. Take a few, bring people along, show them the value of doing this together and the impact you make on their business metrics and on the customer experience, and actually help them to see what this way of working does better than being product centric, being process centric, or being project centric, whatever that is in your organization. So I think like that is a really good way of thinking about it, and not that hard to do. So I know it's a magic wand to fix things question, but it is something you could actually realize.
It's interesting because this comment comes from somebody who's already at a maturity level 3.1 on average. So I think that's way, we have to check what the average is, but 3.1 is already quite high up the ladder.
Right. Yes, that's a good point. I didn't point that out, but like we have like a maturity indicator for everyone. But even more engaged, right? We want to get to level 5 where journeys are the way everyone can align against. The whole change organization uses to say, hey, this is reality. This is how we are actually making progress together. And I know a lot of organizations are trying to get there. But that means like business owners, the typical business owners, they also need to be more engaged and not live in dashboard land, because that's what they are used to, and for good reasons, because that's how they get promoted and know how things are going. But if we want to make the customer experience the most important thing, then I think getting them engaged in a set of journeys is the right way forward. Oh, nice. There's the sounds again. Okay, good one. Something else on the magic wand. So I think this is a smart one. I haven't made up my mind around this, how this plays out, and I've seen varying examples of it. But have journey owners or managers or orchestrators that are accountable for tracking and implementing changes across the different teams. I'm not sure if we're going to end up with like journey managers that are like these hovering between teams, or that we, much more like UX or product management, will have a defined practice with a hierarchy from individual contributors all the way to team leads, directors, VPs, and maybe even a chief journey officer. I think that is what will happen over time, but it will take a considerable amount of time, let's say for the next decade. But the way to fix this or to address this in the short term, and I also wish this is true in more organizations, you have these journey coordinators that use journeys to coordinate across teams, bring in different data, and bring in different priorities around these journeys, so that it actually becomes obvious for everyone to see what their work is actually impacting and how it is actually impacting the customer experience. So this is a nice, I wish I had this, low mature organization that definitely wishes they have that, but I've seen organizations do this already. That's a nice one. Next one. I'm going to make an assumption here, but the way I read this is I would train the user-centered design team, or the user-centered design team up so we start working towards similar standards. Maybe UCD is
you could also
totally
read it
different.
as it's a variation of OCD.
The OCD
the
team.
UCD.
I think the OCD team is already working similar standards, man.
I would hope so.
Yeah, we need an OCD team. That's maybe a better way to think about this. Yeah. But similar standards, yeah, I think that is something that a lot of organizations could benefit from, and also internal training. I think there was some questions around playbooks. I have seen all our customers, literally all our customers, create internal training materials. Some even have dedicated people who train and coach people around how to research, how to measure, how to implement changes around journeys. Not everyone does that, but I've seen all our customers have some form of internal playbooks, training materials, video materials, PDFs, what have you, to train and level up people who are not coming from, let's say, service design. So that definitely fixes process, I guess. And then last one. We talked about it at length. I don't need to re-emphasize this more, I think. That wasn't the intention, but we covered a lot. Like create sub journeys, smaller journeys, micro journeys that are actionable, less end to end, that are too high level, and more about the jobs to be done. And this brings it back to how do you define how wide or how big your journeys are. But I do agree that there are so many teams working in like these imaginary, super abstract end-to-end journeys that are almost like a simple depiction of a customer lifecycle from awareness to the purchase decision and renewing or becoming loyal if you're into more of a fast-moving brand. But that is not really the level that you want to do journey management on. It just doesn't do much justice. But you also don't want to get too granular. So finding that level for your organization in the middle, I think is great. We can do a whole episode on how jobs to be done and journeys work together, but I don't think that is for now. So I think these are the 5 magic wands around process that I also wish were true in many organizations.
So could you bring them up really quickly on the slides? And let's see if we can zoom out to your slide overview. So standard terminology, that's number 1. And then we had, what was the other one? Get business owners more engaged. Number 3 was
journey owners or orchestrators.
OCD team.
Training.
Yes, training and sub-journeys. So let us know in the chat which of these 5 magic wands would you like to have. If you could pick one, give us a number in the chat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was trying to do a poll in directly in YouTube, but it only allows me to do 4 options. So there we go. That's what we learned for the next time, Jochem. Next time we just need to have 4 options rather than a top 5. Let's see. Which magic wand would you like to have? And then once we have those answers rolling in, I think, Jochem, it's a good moment to jump into some of the questions, because we got a few, and I want to reiterate that everything that we're showing here is based on the Journey Management Index and the questions that you are sending in to us. You can access the Journey Management Index still. I can show my page here, and let's see if I can even add you. Jochem, yes, there you are. So if you go to servicedesignshow.com/journey-management-index, you can actually view the results. And we have an average maturity level by industry, by country right now, and we have company size. Our goal is to expand this, and if you click here, get your score, you'll be taken to a very simple survey, and eventually you'll end up at a personal results page. This is a dummy page, but you'll be able to compare yourself to other industries, other countries, other company sizes. And again, we plan to add some additional charts in the future, but you can still participate, and you can maybe even use this internally, share this around, and see if you come up with the same results. And this also feeds our questions for what we're doing here. So let's go back over here, and I think, let's see, screen share, camera B. Let's see. I think I.
Maybe good to add to this is that this maturity index. I mean, it's nice to benchmark yourself, but where I've seen this really work is that when you are already like changing the way you work around journeys, but you need to take the rest of your organization with you, doing that data driven, even though your sample size will be small because you will just run the survey with a bunch of folks, but we'll have that in place, is doing a lot of good for the teams that used it and say, hey, this is where we are. Here's the commitments that we want to make to get us to this level. Here's what we are going to invest in. We're strong in tools. We're not so strong in process. Okay, that's what we're going to do. To make that discussion a lot more business focused. I've seen teams do that in a very, very nice way, and it just helps them to get buy-in from others faster. So it's a nice little gift from this indexing.
And the more data we have, the more valuable and powerful this will be. So I encourage everybody to participate. To sort of start to wrap up, we have some questions, Jochem, and I'll pull them up on the screen. Let's try to answer them briefly, and we can always elaborate. If you're still here with us, thumbs up for you. You're watching History in the Making, the first Journey Management Mastery session. We plan to do this more often. If you have ideas and questions about what you'd like to see us cover and deep dive into the future, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And Jochem, let me pull up some questions. And again, try to be brief so that we have time to go over as many as we can. This is a question from Brianna, and she said, I would be curious to learn more about journey management playbooks. Anything to say about that, Jochem?
Yeah, so playbooks is pretty broad. So I don't know, Brianna, if you're still with us, you can specify what exactly you mean with playbooks. If you mean how other people are training internal people, we have a bunch that we can share or connect you with others who have done this. That's one. In general, we're creating a few standardized playbooks. I think we already posted it in the chat. That will be coming to the world later this quarter or next quarter. I think the quarter is almost done. So we will share also some best practices, turn them into playbooks you can use. But if you want to know more specific playbooks, I can connect you to some people who have done this really, really well.
Perfect. Thank you. And I think people can always reach out to you on LinkedIn if they have additional questions. Jochem van Veer, there's just one with a star in front of your name and with a beautiful post today. Next question from Christina. What stakeholders should be more active or passive around creating the journey? So about roles and stakeholders, is there a difference?
There can be. In the beginning, I would say the people that are most excited about this might surprise you. It's not only service designers, product managers. They can be like coming from all different angles. Well, what I've seen, by the way, is that a lot of us are trained in human-centered design or design thinking principles. But if you stumble upon customer centricity, then you're also more prone to understand journey management faster because it's simple, it's easy to understand, it's logical. You don't go back to formal training and say like, how does this map onto my frameworks? So I would say that the active stakeholders around creating the journey should have some understanding of how to do research, how to interpret data, and how to know what customer experience is like. But you can also have dedicated rules. Some of our customers say like, there's this lane in the journey that is dedicated for, let's say, CX managers that are gathering data day to day, and they are allowed to put the insights there. So you have them to work with that. It could be a very specific rule. So it really depends on, in the early days, on who is willing and excited, but later on, what is the right people that you need to do this? Because you don't want to have design by committee. So everyone has a say, and you end up with these massive journeys that nobody cares about.
That's a good starting point. Yes. All right, moving on. Next question from Anna Carolina. What would be a good starting point if an organization with zero design maturity in-house?
So the first starting point is to see what you can do with the existing strategy. In most organizations, there is some emphasis on customer experience or customer centricity. So you want to find that. You want to understand what that is for your organization, how leadership is thinking about that, and use that for paving the way to maybe get some consultants in, to get an agency to be pitching at least an idea of this idea of customer-centric transformation or journey management. There's a few that are really good at this. We can also point you to a bunch. I know there's even Harmonic Design who's sponsoring the show, but there's a lot of these mature organizations that can help you do this. And it depends on what type of organization you are. If you're like multinational global corporation, you might want to look into value stream from Bain or look at journey management from McKinsey. For a little bit more smaller, you want to look at a service design consulting firm that is more practical, hands-on. But I think tying it to a strategic objective is the first thing you want to look for. And if there's none, better find a new job, I guess.
If there is no strategic objective, then
Around customer
the
centricity, right? If it's only about process, revenue, money, business, and there's no point in dragging something that doesn't want to be moved.
I agree. I agree. We are doing this now for 60 minutes. Jochem, are you up for extending a little bit so that we can answer the other questions that just came in?
Yeah, sure. Let's run over a
All
bit.
right.
I do need to pick up the kids in a few, but I have some time. It's fine.
Okay. So next question is from Saif. You mentioned influencing change. What are good examples of that and how journey management made a big impact? Okay, broad question, but maybe there's an example top of mind.
Yeah, of course. I can take you back to one of the founding moments of TheyDo. So I was standing in, and I can say that, like, a large multinational company. Well, actually, let's name it. I was working for Randstad, which is a global temporary employer. And we were consulting them on this whole customer-centric way of working and helping the team set up, at the end of digital transformation, a customer-centric practice. And we did everything by the book, design thinking. We mapped out the journeys, we did the research, we plotted it out, made the personas, brought the whole stakeholders, the board, everyone in the same room. The customers were presenting the ideas, we were validating with them. Everything was perfect. But we know we failed that moment because this was all done pre-COVID in the brown paper world of whiteboards and post-its. And when we came back on Monday, the room was empty. The teams were back to business as normal. There were maybe some initiatives on the backlog somewhere, but there wasn't a sustainable process in there. So we learned from that. And then when we got tasked by Randstad again to do this on a more global level, this was one country, we did research in 4 countries. We helped the teams to do a customer-centric way of working and understand their customers. But what they then did is used and reused these journeys to create a higher level standardized journey of what they've learned in the different countries with the different needs of the different talents that were looking for jobs. And they brought that to the stakeholders and they let them define which opportunity was most important and prioritize that. So once they picked one, there were a bunch of solutions implemented. But because the stakeholders were part of identifying the opportunity that was most important, they also knew that there were other opportunities that they didn't address. And that resulted in more commitment, more resources for the teams to execute on those as well. So without them knowing, they've set up their internal journey management practices by doing that in a more collaborative way, rather than only slap on the solution at the end of the design thinking way of working. So that is how journey management actually got started for us. It's like, hey, this is a way to influence change across the business. Now let's build a platform to support this.
Well, there you go. A little bit of back story, the origin story of TheyDo. Interesting. Maybe we need to do a separate episode of that as well. But that lends itself more for a podcast. So who knows? I hope this answered your question a bit, Saif. Otherwise, just reach out to Jochem. I'm sure he has many more bedtime stories around journey management. Moving on, a few more questions to go. Janneke, is the implementation of journey management typically bottom up or top down? You sort of already answered this question. The question here might be around implementation.
Yes.
Does this change your perspective?
One thing I think bottom up is the way to go. Obviously, I said that already. But what I didn't say yet, and what is very important, is that you need air cover. You need support from the top, whether it's your manager, your skip level manager, or even from the board or the executive director. It doesn't matter, whatever that is in your organization. There needs someone to understand what this can become and say, yes, you're going to get the resources. You're going to do this. I support you. You're going to start this up, even though it's small, but you have that support. Now, if you are that person, that's great. But in most organizations, it starts bottom up. But if you fail to have that top-down support, it will just be a few beautiful projects and nothing more than that.
So I see it as there was a beautiful chart that showed like two lines growing together, like a ladder, but you had two lines going at the same time, and you need that. You need to start bottom up, but at the same time build support from top down, and then it's sort of I don't know how to visualize it. There was a beautiful chart that did this, but you need both things at the same time, and you probably start bottom up, and while you do that, you build support from the top down, and then it allows you to go to the next step. Something like that, right?
Yeah, if you can draw it up for next time, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
to
I
see.
will. I will. It was a beautiful masterpiece. All right. A question from Bob. Do they do support tracking metrics on the journeys, or do you have an approach, best practice, or similar?
Yes, I think all of the above. So the first thing you want to know is, how do we actually measure customer experience in our organization? In some cases, like, we only have NPS and we break it down into maybe journey IDs. That's it. But to understand what the journey is measured by is a game on its own. Like, how do we know people are successful? How do we know people complete this journey? Those are like customer facing things you can measure. Are people experiencing frustration? Are they happy? Like, what is the NPS for this journey? The obvious one. Is there effort that we should be aware of that should be lower or higher? There's all these like CX metrics you can plot on your journeys. That's one thing. So we have, let's say, integrations with Qualtrics, or we're building them out with all the other vendors one by one. So you can actually have your data through API in there. You can set up your manual metrics by just plotting it out. So that is possible, and you do this on journey level, on step level, or maybe on a board level, one level up. There's many ways to track journeys. But now what we realized, and this is a new thing, is that good journeys are not only showing what the impact on the customer experience is. So that's one way of measuring. But the other thing you want to measure is, how are we actually making progress? So as a team, is there alignment? Is there collaboration? And once there is collaboration and we make decisions, is there progress on the decisions we make? Is there an effort in place for making the solutions that address the opportunities? And how fast are we doing this? So I think that is the other dimension that I think is overlooked. And we are coming around to this soon also in TheyDo, is like, how do we track progress against what we want to change in that journey? And then obviously the metric should show the impact on the customer experience. But I think those two are necessary. And yes, we do support tracking KPIs like the ones I mentioned, manual or setting that up. But yeah, I can talk in length about this. So feel free to DM me and we'll set something up, Bob.
Who doesn't love talking about KPIs, metrics, OKRs? I do. Again, topic for a different session.
We're going to go to KPIs in a few, right?
Yeah, that's true. Moving on. Final question, at least here. And I think the final question we'll be addressing today in the Journey Management Mastery session from Jente. When is a journey ready to be managed? Quite some journeys live in a workshop, in workshop files. What quality maturity should a journey have before it can get published to many stakeholders and managed? Again, I think you already touched upon this, but yeah. What would you say, Jochem?
I love this question, and it is different for every organization. But what I can say is that if you have a definition of complete or manageable or readiness, I think that is something you want to define. The way I thought about it is, you need to have at least the way you measure a journey in place. You need to have your insights. You need to have your existing solutions mapped against that journey. And then you need to have a way to capture the opportunities in it. I mean, that's how we set up TheyDo as well. So if you have those things in place, if it's a 5-step journey, a 20-step journey, it is manageable. You should agree on when it is. But what I've seen teams do very well is they create like status for journey. Literally say, this is an unmapped journey. This is a journey that is currently in research. This is a journey that is actually live and actually what the customer experience is like. So setting up a little taxonomy for like status. So in your case, manageable could be a status, ready to be managed. Will help to say like, hey, we have 100 journeys, but only 5 of them are ready to be managed. The rest is in research, and we're doing things around that, which is a management process on its own. But I think you get the point. That is what is very useful and what I've seen teams do to get this right.
Interesting question. Thanks, Jente. Hope that helped, and definitely something we'll dive into later. So this brings us to a moment where we need to wrap up. If you're still here with us, please leave a message and let us know what kind of insights, data, maybe charts you'd like to see in the Journey Management Index. If you haven't yet participated yet, do so. How could we help you? What kind of, again, insights? What would help you convince your colleagues, your coworkers, your other business stakeholders that we need to invest more in journeys, in journey management? Let us know. And the other question that we have is, let's imagine we do this session again in the future. What would you like us to dive into? So we had governance, we had process, KPIs, tools, some of the other dimensions. You can review them in the slides that we'll share later, or you can just scroll back in the recording. But which dimension would you like to see us cover in the next live stream and the edition of the Journey Management Mastery? Where do we leave a message, Greg? Just here in the chat. It's as easy as that. Or shoot me or Jochem a message on LinkedIn. That also works. Jochem, how was this experience for you? I see that we still have many millions of people watching, which is awesome. How was the Journey Management Mastery for you?
Yeah, it was really fun. I liked it. I do think that, going over the 5 top bottlenecks and the 5 magic wand questions was a bit of a one-way street. So maybe we can make that more interactive next time. But again, this was the first time. So I think we did magic here in a sense. And I'm also curious to hear the thoughts after. Like, we'll share some of the slides that we talked about today. See some of the things that you want to build out next, because this is a learning experience, but seeing so much engagement was quite the thing. So I'm really happy. I think this was good.
I think we're off a good start. So thank you, Jochem, for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for watching to our first edition of the Journey Management Mastery session. I'm Marc Fonteijn. That was Jochem van de Veer. I hope you enjoyed us. I hope you'll join us next time for a new session. If you have participated in the chat, good for you. Thank you for being part of this community and supporting us here, not only chatting to ourselves. So, Jochem, thank you. And I'll see you soon. And I'll see all you probably in a future video. Thank you and bye-bye.
Amazing. Thanks, Marc.